Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for Western Conference semifinalists El Paso Locomotive. Proud member of the Beautiful Game Network and brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. I'm Phil Bakke, and today I am joined, as per usual, by Mikka Burrell. Mikka, we're alive. I think that's... Goes without saying for the fans and Locomotive after this one.
Well, my Fitbit seems to think otherwise. My heart rate on my Fitbit has just been flatlined since yesterday. So, but I am indeed alive. We are indeed alive and here and ready to chat about this ridiculous match.
It really was ridiculous. And to help us break it down, once again, we've got Christian Canales. Christian, how you doing?
What a win, man. What a win. That's really all you can say about that, about yesterday's match. And with that win, celebrations are in order. As Mikka shared with us, she had a post-game celebration at Texas staple Whataburger. Mm-hmm. So kind of keeping with the theme from last week, I was wondering this week, even though Whataburger is not my favorite, you can't deny the versatility that they offer. And a Whataburger order is kind of like a fingerprint. There's no two that are the same. So I'm wondering, what are your guys' go-tos?
Ooh. Well, I will say, first of all, they got my order wrong last night. But the good thing is, I know, but the good thing is that, if you get it wrong at Whataburger, it's probably still going to be good. So, because they gave me, I asked for a number 3, and I don't know why she thought that meant the triple meat. I'm like, this is crazy. I don't need 3 fucking patties. But I usually get the bacon and cheese Whataburger. Add the grilled veggies and onions, the fajita veggies, and of course some spicy ketchup. That's just, and then they forgot to put that in the bag. But luckily, I've got spicy ketchup at home. I have the bottle. So that's usually what I do. I
think we found out last night as well that Whataburger's ketchup has made its way outside of Texas via Amazon. So Matt from the Unused Substitutes podcast, which is a Tampa Bay podcast, admitted to having some in his fridge. And that is such a power move to go for the spicy ketchup from a chain that doesn't even exist where you live. That is living right there.
For sure. I told him though, it's not in the Tampa area, but I do think they have Whataburger in the Panhandle. Oh, okay. And Jacksonville and stuff. That that would be kind of a hike for them, but worth it. Definitely worth it. Hopefully it's the same in Florida. I don't know, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah. As far as my order, I do love a good, the cheeseburger. I normally add the cheese and bacon. It depends on how I'm feeling, but I like a classic kind of vibe to the burger. I don't really add too much. I also really appreciate that Whataburger doesn't default to the ketchup. You can make your ketchup decisions. The mustard goes on, but you make your ketchup decision. You're in control of that. So that's another thing I appreciate about Whataburger. But one of the menu items that I always go for when it is there is when they do the chicken tender sandwich or whatever. When they do the buffalo version of that, the buffalo chicken tender sandwich, that is the bomb. I love that. So I will swerve the burger once that hits the menu, whenever seasonality that is. I will always go for the buffalo style chicken tender sandwich. Yeah,
that's a good call. I'm almost aligned with Mikka. I go for the bacon and cheese. No mustard. I add barbecue sauce and mayo. Barbecue sauce and mayo, and no onions.
Nice.
That's a classy order right there. No denying that. And post-game celebrations were in order, obviously, last night. Another playoff win for Locomotive. And I mean, we may as well dive straight into this because we've obviously got tons to talk about off the back of this one. There was goals galore, mistakes, defensive mistakes at both ends, a red card, it went to penalty kicks, like tons to talk about, obviously. But I think first things first, Christian, is this the craziest game that we have witnessed in El Paso Locomotive's history?
Absolutely. And I think the fact that it was a home match makes it even more crazy for the fans, especially the ones that are lucky enough to be there. It's the second game that we've been to in penalties, obviously, or no, the first, sorry. Mm-hmm. The first. I was thinking about last year's, but that ended, unfortunately.
Right.
So the first penalty kick game that we've ever been a part of, to witness it firsthand it's something else. That does something on your cardiovascular system. I'll tell you that much. But even aside from that, just everything that happened in the game, it was just such an insane game. Like you said, mistakes, tons of shots, tons of almost goals. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. And you felt that Locomotive had to win it, but just with the way our luck was looking, you were just never quite sure.
Yeah. And something you said there, Christian, just the tons of almost goals, woodwork being hit, some very, very good saves in the end as well from Sean Lewis in Tulsa's goal. But Mikka, I mean, it's one of those games where the final score is 2-2, Locomotive winning 4-2 on penalty kicks. But that somehow hardly tells the story of this match.
No, it doesn't. I think this one could have been like 6-2, or maybe even like 6-1 if we don't make one or two of these mistakes and the crossbar doesn't like disintegrate into the ether because it was getting abused all night. Insane match. I think ultimately the team that deserved to win won, just because we dominated late and seemed to really impose ourselves in extra time. And then, of course, show our quality in the individual quality in the penalty kicks. So, 2-2 is ultimately, I think it's kind of kind to Tulsa, even though I thought they did play very well. And I'm willing to say they're probably the best footballing team that we've played this season. I was really impressed with them, really impressed with just how well drilled they are. And they're very similar to us, I think, in a lot of ways. So it was really interesting to that matchup. It was just very, despite all the like craziness, it was still very tactical, I think, and two very well matched sides. So I think with a couple more pieces here and there for Tulsa, they could definitely make a deep run next year.
I think it's a little strange for Locomotive because we don't often face teams that try to play the same way as us. Tulsa line up in a 4-3-3 that is pretty similar to the approach that we took in this match. They like to have the ball, and they did for periods of this match dominate possession as well. They have some very, very talented players. Liba Moloto sticks out, I think, because he got a lot of attention on Nashville last year. But Marlon, Suarez, all of those players in that kind of attacking area of the field are all extremely talented and can do damage. I think Locomotive did well to kind of corral them for most of the night. But what we saw is, and we'll get to the other playoff games a little bit later, but in two matchups that will ultimately lead to our next round match, we saw two teams play very similar styles to each other. So Tulsa played kind of the way that we expect Locomotive to play, and that led to all this kind of craziness and lack of control that we're used to for Locomotive. Meanwhile, New Mexico United and San Antonio, two teams who play very open and counterattacking and direct, that led to almost less chaos when two teams that play kind of more freely, they canceled each other out. Whereas Locomotive and Tulsa canceling each other out led to this just kind of off the wall match. So I found that kind of interesting. The juxtaposition of, the wild teams playing a more stalemate match and the control teams playing this like wild, crazy, like full of incidents match. So, Christian, this one gets off to a start. And I mean, we have the offside goal initially from Tulsa. I mean, it's not, I don't know that it's worth necessarily diving into the decision because it's extremely hard to tell whether he's on. But after surviving that early scare, Locomotive go the other end, and Leandro Carrillo opens his account for Locomotive finally. He shows up in the playoffs. The pass from Yuma is good, but it is ultimately a mistake. And Leandro gambling that maybe he'll have a chance if there is an error back there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the the most glorious goal by any means. Obviously, I was hoping for his first goal to be something a little more spectacular, but we were treated to that later, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But yeah, this one, it's just that's what these intelligent strikers do. They're just in the right place at the right time. It's just one of those goals. And, we saw it with Kiesewetter last year plenty of times and had no complaints about it then. I have no complaints about it now. You take what you can get. And like you said, he took a gamble on continuing to go towards the goal, and it paid off.
Mikka, you spoke about it in the group chat at the time, but the pass from Yuma, the initial pass from Yuma is really good. It does eventually, I guess initially get cut out. It does lead to the goal, but Yuma in this center back role again, especially on this occasion, taking the opportunity to get really far forward, and breaks the lines in doing so.
Yeah, Yuma just celebrated, I think, his 35th birthday, and he's bombing up the pitch with the best of the young ones out there. So incredible from Yuma. I thought, again, he had a really fantastic night wearing the armband and, being in that back line for us. But yeah, on this one, he's way, way far up the pitch. And you're right, the chip, while nice, it ultimately is a miscommunication between, I think, Kevin Garcia and his keeper, Sean Lewis. But I think at the same time, though, because with a chip, the ball is kind of slow and in the air, so you kind of have to, your timing has to be pretty much perfect, and it wasn't for Tulsa at that moment, and Carrillo was able to capitalize. So, Yuma, I thought, had a fantastic night. And that goal doesn't happen without him.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, it's interesting the way Yuma has transitioned to that role. And I wonder, from what we've seen right now, do we feel like we've sacrificed anything, not having Chiro there? Cause if Chiro's playing center back, then there's no chance that Chiro is at the top of, the opponent's box. There's no situation where he's that far up the field. And so who knows if that goal happens. So it's just something to think about. Obviously we love Chiro. But it's just interesting to think it doesn't seem like we've sacrificed anything defensively. It appears we've gained something in the attack. So do we is Yuma a better fit there than Chiro?
Well, he's certainly more athletic.
Sure.
So, you're spot on. You're not going to see Chiro making those runs. And like I said on the last pod, I think Yuma really benefits from playing in that position because the entire game is in front of him. I think we've seen him kind of fly into tackles or mistime things when the ball gets past him or when people get past him. And I don't think that's happening nearly as often when he's part of that back four. So yeah, I like seeing him back there. I think it's, again, he's our Mascherano. So yeah. I like it.
I think the only goal that I think about, and I'll just speak about it now. since it's relevant, I think the second Tulsa goal is the only moment of the match where I think maybe if Chiro's in there, he just heads that ball away, instead of obviously we get beat in the air and Callum Chapman Page, wins that header. Although, obviously it's a mistake by the keeper as well. But that moment, maybe Chiro just heads that away, just sheer size and physicality. He just bodies, Chapman Page instead of what did occur, which, he gets up above like 3 Locomotive players and wins that header with Logan charging down. But overall, I think the thing that Yuma lends that is the most marked difference for me, the goal aside, like as far as his run forward, is just the amount of calm that he brings to that back line. And Chiro obviously does a very good job of organizing. I think he kind of marshals things. But Yuma, when he's wearing that armband, we know that he does too. And we know as well that when he's in possession, as a last man, even at times, he just doesn't flinch. There's absolutely no moment where he panics in possession or anything like that. He could be pressed, surrounded by Tulsa players, and he'll just calmly turn and play a simple pass across to Mishak, or, he just relieves that pressure very kind of naturally and easily. So I think that is kind of the trade-off, is Chiro is maybe not as kind of calm in possession, but maybe we're losing something physically. But I mean, across the 90 minutes, Mishak and Yuma, despite the 2 goals, actually played exceptionally well, I think. And, it was unfortunate that they do concede. But I do, before we talk about the issues on the night, I do want to bring up another positive, and that was Josue Aron Gomez. So he doesn't show up on the score sheet, but Christian, I mean, he was an absolute firecracker all over the pitch. He was making things happen throughout the 113 minutes that he played, and he's a little bit unlucky not to score at least once.
Yeah, absolutely. And he probably doesn't listen to the podcast, but if he did, if I could say words to him, it would be I just hope you're not upset about anything. I hope that you're not looking down at this game, because he played such a fantastic game. His shots, obviously none of them went in the goal, but I think that it was even better from a shooting perspective. It was way better than, it was probably his best game. We've seen him in recently, probably out of frustration, just kind of just launching the ball, whenever he got an inch of space, and they haven't been great shots. But all of his shots in this game, the right decision at the right time, and with a couple, centimeters in another direction, those are in the net. So he had a fantastic game, and on the field, I was telling Mikka, I think it was, into extra time. He makes a defensive play, at our box, to win us a goal kick. And for your striker who's been running his ass off for 110 minutes, to be going back to your own goal line and making defensive plays, what is that? What a game! What a player! What a game! I wish he had something to show for it, but we know that he definitely contributes way more than just goals to the game.
Yeah, he was just so bright throughout the match, and the one moment where I just wish it could have. I wish the move would have ended in a goal, because then we'd all have it, and it would be in the highlight package, and it would be, a tangible thing for us to hold on to. In the end, it's a completed dribble from Gomez, but in the first half, he skips past 3 Tulsa midfielders and is just off to the races. And it's not something that we'd seen from Gomez. He's not normally the guy who runs at people. He's not normally, taking people on or flicking it past people to try to like go past. He looks to link up. He looks to play those quick kind of interchanges around the box, as we've seen a bunch this season. And he just decides, you know what, I'm going to take this one and like go off on my own. And he splits the entire midfield with one dribble. So it didn't, end in a shot or anything like that, but just Gomez was kind of key to everything that was going on and the link up that he was providing. I mean, Mikka, he just, as Christian said, he's giving us a lot more than just, in this case, shots on goal, but goals ultimately.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he's been with the team for 2 seasons now, and I still feel like I'm learning so much about his game. He just seems, especially this season, to really have come on and just, he's just so complete. As far as forwards go at this level, he does everything. He really does everything. And like you said, we saw kind of the dribbling and the skill and getting behind the back line a bunch. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, he's the ultimate team player. And for me, he's certainly man of the match. I don't know that he necessarily got that accolade officially, but I'm with Christian on this. I hope if anything, this is actually I would take it as a confidence boost that he's the way he played. I hope it's not disappointing to him. I'm sure it probably is on some level to not have gotten something tangible, but we don't make it through this match without him for sure.
I think we'll see a angry goal from Gomez, like just absolutely smashing it because he's just pissed that it hasn't been going in. So I think we'll see it before Locomotive exits the season, one way or another, with a trophy or without. I think we'll see Gomez get on the score sheet and maybe in a emotionally cathartic way, but we'll see. It was kind of an emotional night across the board. Emotions obviously running high in a playoff game and single elimination, but things were made really, really tense and sort of almost jarring because Logan Ketterer, who has statistically been among the best keepers in USL and is joint top for most clean sheets in this season, he has a couple of howlers, and Tulsa actually equalize on a spilled cross, essentially, that kind of goes through his hands. And then they take the lead when he came to claim a cross into the box that was won by Chapman Page. And, as soon as he doesn't get there, the goal is gaping and the ball easily finds the back of the net. So how strange is it, I guess, to watch this sort of mistake from Logan? And then do you think that this game, and I'll throw this to Christian first, but do you think that this game could potentially impact his mentality the rest of the season?
I don't think so. As far as negatively impact him. Like he saved a penalty in PKs. Like obviously he's there. Like right. He wasn't shaken up. So I'm not worried about that. Last year he had a giant mistake early in the season. Granted, context is a lot different, but he straight up just like missed a ball as it was rolling past him. And then he continues to have a fantastic season for us. So I think that he is a very confident, very professional keeper. So I don't worry about these mistakes like haunting him per se. If anything, he's the kind of person that is just going to be even more locked in training this week. And I don't think that. I think he'll probably have as good a game as we've seen him have this coming weekend. Mikka, I mean, we spoke about it. There's no denying that he's made mistakes here, and it is not what we'd expect from one of the best keepers in the league. But he has also demonstrated a strong mentality to not let it affect him as the game ran into extra time and eventually penalties.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And to be honest, we've had a couple people chirping us about accountability and what have you. And I think that Logan did not have a great game, at least in as far as regulation time was concerned. He definitely redeems himself, and we'll get onto that, of course. But that doesn't take away everything that he's done for us this season to get to this point, So, of course, when it's playoff time and the rest of your season's on the line, you can't be making these mistakes. Maybe in his defense, or at least just to give more context, I think that after the initial hydration break, we were just dreadful. I think that the break killed whatever momentum we did have, in that first half. And the whole sequence kind of breaks down there. I mean, I think it's Dylan or Richie or someone trips as we're trying to get back to defend, and it leaves just this little bit of space to where they can get the ball out wide. And again, the angle is acute. It's a cross. It's a pullback. Like, that should not be ever heading into the net, but it just slips through Logan's gloves, and Da Costa's there to easily tap it in. So unfortunate. I think a worse team, our heads would if we were a worse team, our heads definitely would have dropped after this, but we keep going. Like Christian said, I'm not too worried that this negatively affects him. If anything, I think he kind of relishes this because he seems like he always has something to prove. And I think if he wants to prove anything, it's to himself, and having a better game next time out against, the rivals. So yeah, he makes some big mistakes here. We can't get away from that, but, it's a team game at the end of the day.
Yeah, and speaking of accountability, with that being the buzzword, I think no one is going to hold Logan more accountable for his mistakes than Logan. And that's just the type of player that he is. He's improved so much since the start of last season. He's come on, like leaps and bounds. And the fact that I really cannot think about a mistake leading to goal from Logan this season. The fact that 2 happen in the space of, about 15, or I guess 20 game minutes, just seems so improbable. But he'll certainly, I think, learn. He'll learn from these errors, but also I think the whole defensive unit is going to come back focused on keeping a clean sheet the next week. There's not a lot. We've literally kept clean sheets in half of our games this season, or I guess now just under half. So that ultimately will be the goal from the whole defensive unit. But gosh, we have tons more to talk about with this one. And so because of that, I'm going to go ahead. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk about the rest of this match right when we come back. So stay tuned. Thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to MLS, USL, US Soccer, and Seriously Loco. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Welcome back to Seriously Loco, everyone. And, well, guys, as we restart this conversation, the match is 2-1. Tulsa lead Locomotive, and entering those final stages, how nervous were you that Locomotive would actually not find that winner? I mean, we found a lot of late goals this year, but did at any point you think maybe this is just asking one too many? It just didn't seem like maybe it was our night, or did you always feel like we were getting back into this one?
Yeah, I mean, up until the end of regular time, I was pretty sure that we would score. But I think that, when you get to extra time, all bets are off, anything goes kind of thing. So that's when I start really hesitating and wondering if this is going to be the end for us. Just because I feel like anything can happen when you have to play an extra 30 minutes. So I was fairly confident, especially after the second goal. I thought that, a third one's got to come, but it didn't.
Mikka, I mean, we've talked a lot about the woodwork this season, and unfortunately, this game offers more fodder for that conversation. Richie Ryan struck the crossbar from a very close header, and then Josue Aron Gomez hits the woodwork twice in this match. Once with a really beautiful right-footed curler in the first half, and then from a narrow angle off the bar in the second. So El Paso Locomotive and the woodwork in emotionally abusive relationship as the goal continues to play with our emotions.
I think, Phil, you have to do like an XG for this one. 'Cause I know hitting the post doesn't count, I guess, as a shot, but Jesus, it was just ridiculous. Those of us that were in the press dugout were like, just like sick. Like Joe Rodriguez was like, I can't, like throwing his arms up. And professionalism had gone out the window after, the second or third time we hit the woodwork.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it made me feel like the momentum was certainly on our side. Having hit the woodwork so many times. So, my goodness. Yeah, it was just awful to watch though in the moment, like just so much anxiety and dread, feeling like maybe this might not happen for us, but less of that, please. I guess I don't know what we can do about that. I mean, just better finishing. I don't know. I feel like we were doing everything possible to score more goals. I mean, we created so many chances, probably double what Tulsa created. I don't know. I didn't look at the stats too closely, but just somebody with that killer touch just needs to be putting those away. What a goal that would have been for Richie, though. I mean, he does everything right there. So
Richie with another, like, that's a few games in quick succession where he has that chance from a corner, and the first was saved, I think, and then this one off the bar. He tried to recalibrate, I guess, from that last chance. But I mean, I don't have the XG in front of me right now. But the bottom line at the end of this one is Locomotive create 26 shots across the 120 minutes. Tulsa created 12 with 3 on target. Locomotive have 10 on target, and then another 3 that hit the woodwork. So 13 like close calls, I guess, and 8 saves from Sean Lewis in Tulsa's net. So
he was incredible, I have to say. Some of those saves.
I think the Mahrez chance in the first half, as soon as he saves that, you're like, oh, he's kind of on it tonight, because Locomotive nearly opened the scoring like in the second minute. But the save from Mahrez in stoppage time was probably one of the best saves that I've ever seen, in that he knows almost nothing about it, sticks his foot out and gets the tip of his cleat on the ball and redirects it wide of the post. Like Mahrez denied an extra time winner. And it just was like peak David De Gea. Like, I was literally, this is what De Gea used to be with that kick save. And it was just, he had an amazing night. And honestly, for the amount of saves that his team asked him to make, he really did about as much as he could have back there. But Christian, 8 minutes from time, your boy popped up again. Leandro Carrijo at the other end this time, and off a corner, Dylan Mahrez delivering the ball into the center, and the header down from Carrijo. This is the type of goal that we kind of expected from Leandro when he joined.
Oh, 100%. This is, I mean, obviously we didn't get everything we were hoping for, but we thought we were going to see like 20 of these this season. But if we get one, this was a good time to get it. It was just like you said, it's what we all know he can do. It was just a matter of the right chance coming along for him, and he nails it. It's the first opportunity like this that he's gotten. I think. I don't think that he's been given a ball like that to put in the net. So he took full advantage of it and does what we all know he can do.
The fact that he gets his first goal for the club, Mikka, is obviously a big step for any striker's confidence. Scoring is, just reinforces that. To score 2 and to score an important goal as well. I mean, could this kickstart Carrillo, like in turn, could we be seeing like dangerous Carrillo for the rest of the playoffs now?
I mean, we certainly hope so, right? I think these 2 goals for him are the type of goals that we can expect. Cleaning up some of the mistakes in and around the area that the other team makes, maybe forcing them into those mistakes with pressure, or just getting your head on the end of a really, really good Mahrez corner, which he delivered a bunch of those, by the way. So, I think that Carrillo just needs to keep doing what he's doing. I think in this one, he was much more disciplined in his positioning. We didn't see him kind of dragged wide or getting too deep because he was, getting impatient with not being on the ball. He definitely felt like he was playing more of that kind of poacher, penalty box predator role that we and his legs expect, I think. So, hopefully this is just the start of a scoring tear, because, we need him, especially when Gomez is doing everything he can and it's just not going in. So yeah.
Also, speaking of his legs, like, are we sure that was him? Because he played 120 minutes. Like, the last couple games, he's looked like he was spent at like 70.
Yeah.
And he went out and put 120. So I'm not sure that was him, to be honest.
That is a good point.
In fairness, he does not take a penalty at the end of the game. So maybe he was spent at 120, like to the point where one more kick would be just a bridge too far. But ultimately, he does play. He plays well, and he contributes for the whole 120. He doesn't just because I think in a few of these games, we've been like, after 60, he kind of like disappears. Like it's almost like he's not playing. That was not the case. Like throughout the 120, he's still popping up. Like he's still backing down his defender. He's still like holding onto the ball, linking it up, and in the box, like potentially on the end of some of these chances. So yeah, I think he actually contributed for the 120, which is a big step for him. I don't know, maybe fitness wise, something just kind of clicked, and maybe he's been putting some extra work in to be able to go longer into these games. Cause he outlasts Gomez in terms of not being subbed off. When I certainly thought when Saeed Robinson was being readied, I really thought that it was going to be Carrillo who made way, and it was Gomez instead. So interesting kind of turn of events, but we spoke about the amount of chances that Locomotive had in this one, especially in those last kind of 38 minutes, like from the time we grabbed the equalizer to the time extra time ended. Locomotive could have won this game 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, this was the best Locomotive football. It was in that phase. Tulsa had no business still being in the game, I think, at the end of regulation. I mean, just the woodwork, and just there was that one chance that nearly that Sean Lewis kind of made a similar mistake to what Logan had done on the first one, and let it get through his palms. And Zubar, I think is his name, was there to clean it up. So just couldn't buy a goal. We couldn't buy a goal in this phase. I don't know, man. The Locomotive, man, they just have a flair for the dramatic sometimes. So, yeah. And
that Gomez chance I was talking about with the right foot, I said in the first half, but I think it was the first half of extra time, not not the first half. Yeah. Anyways,
it all blends together.
At the end of 120, like, I'm just happy to not have my brain actively melting out of my ears. So
for sure.
Anyways, during this period, Christian, we have kind of a weird moment where Callum Chapman-Page, who was a goal scorer, he had been booked earlier for interrupting a Gomez restart from a throw-in. But we have this odd moment in the 101st minute in extra time where he is sent off, and it's all kind of happening very suddenly. Carrillo was like down in the area. It was in kind of I think a Tulsa corner. Like, I think they were attacking a corner and he was sent off, and all of a sudden, like, no one really knows what's going on. It's total chaos. Do you have any added perspective on like what happened with Callum Chapman-Page and how did Locomotive end up with this man advantage?
Yeah, I mean, do I know? Do I have any facts about it? Absolutely not. Do I have speculation? Yes. So I think I don't think that this came off of a corner. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just pretty sure it didn't. I think it was a ball sent over into the box there. They go down. I think Carrillo and Page go up after the ball. And it goes off Carrillo. The ref awards a corner kick to Tulsa. Or a goal kick, I mean. I assume that Page thought he was fouled and was upset about that. That's my only guess, is that he thought but like, still, like, you got the goal kick. Like, what's the difference between, a spot kick and a goal kick at that point?
Right.
It's not like Carrillo is going to be sent off. It was, from what I can remember, it was just a challenge.
Yeah.
So I have no clue. Maybe he just lost his head. That's all I can think.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, on the broadcast, they said that it was for foul and abusive language, which is a, bookable offense. And we've seen referees for dissent or anything like that. We've obviously seen those given. It is a little weird, Mikka, when you see someone sent off for something like that. And the authority with which the referee brandished the red card made it seem like, yeah, there's no bones about it. Like, he's off. But the reaction of the Tulsa players, they were very adamant about his innocence, I guess. And as was he. So what did you make of this kind of weird moment?
It was so strange. And of course we get no explanation in the ground of what's happening. Chapman-Page was making a menace of himself throughout the match. And I actually think that the officiating was pretty good on the night. So whatever happened there, I'm inclined to defer to the referee on that decision. If it, like you said, foul and abusive language is a bookable offense. Hopefully he didn't say anything a la San Diego Loyal these past couple weeks. I think we would have heard about that by now if that were the case. Maybe like Christian said, he just lost his head and, cussed somebody out or something. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows what happened at us at Seriously Loco. But yeah. I think, and I think that while he got sent off, I don't remember feeling like, yeah, they're a man down. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much of a difference that made. Maybe for Tulsa and their hopes of getting through, maybe, but for us, I just never felt like there was like this gaping hole. I don't know if you all felt that way or not. I forgot after a while that they were down a man. So I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't have, obviously if, after the 101st minute we had scored like 5 goals, or whatever, we had just like put them out of sight, then it would have been like, the red card kind of changes the match, but it goes to penalties in the end. So
yeah, that's probably it, is like I think you're right. Maybe if we had scored more, I would have been like, oh yeah, space. But
right,
because we weren't capitalizing, it almost felt like whatever.
Well, and we had already kind of taken control of the match prior to the sending off. So I think that also, it's not like there was a marked difference in the flow of the game after the red card. So I think maybe Tulsa fans might argue, and I think it's fair enough or whatever. They might argue that 11v11, like maybe we create a couple more chances. And that might be fair, but ultimately it went down to penalties anyway. So, and penalties, the first question I'll ask, Christian, you are like relatively new to the penalty kick as a way to decide a do or die playoff match like this, a single elimination. How did you handle penalty kicks? And was there any like observations from this first experience of the dreaded lottery of penalty kicks?
No, I mean, I like it. I relish it. I think it's from watching so many other, Western sports, I guess you can call it. I just grew up knowing that every game has to have a winner. So like for me, if we had penalty kicks in the regular season, like that would be preferable for me. I know that's like a hot take, but that's how I see it. I get why it's not, but for me that would be like the perfect version for me is, just there always being a winner. But I mean, the game's not going to change that anytime soon, I would imagine. So that's fine. But, I like it. I think it's exciting. I think that, especially in a game like this, where it's not like, how can I say it? We dominated, the extra time, like we've said, but I think that overall you would be hard pressed to say that, one team was the definite winner of this game, like before penalties. So in a circumstance like that, you might as, if you're not going to just flip a coin and call heads or tails to decide the winner, then, at least put some skill in it.
Mikka, I mean, I think famously there are, managers and like people around football who like won't watch penalty kicks. Like they can't bear to watch. Can you stand the tension of penalty kicks?
Yeah, no, I can't. I personally cannot look away. I think Mark is probably one of those. I saw him turned around on a few occasions during this one with just nobody around him. I think they all understood to leave the man alone. Yeah, no, I mean, penalties, I don't have a very strong opinion of it one way or another. I think it is a little unfair, but at the same time, like there does have to be a winner, and I don't know that I'd be more comfortable with like a golden goal situation. That feels even more ridiculous in some aspects. But at the same time, like I think we're a team that is probably well prepared for penalty situations because Logan Ketterer is fantastic one-on-one. So yeah, it just, I think it was destiny really that we were going to go through. We had dominated so much of the latter stages of the match in extra time that while it would have made sense either way if Tulsa, don't miss that one chance, or if Logan doesn't make any saves, I think we deserved it.
The shootout, the way that it plays out, Logan does get kind of, in it going to penalties, he gets this immediate chance at redemption. And Altamirano scored the first for Tulsa, which was answered by Nick Ross. Then Lebo Moloto blazes over the bar, actually, which was kind of shocking from a player that's as highly rated as Moloto. From there, Mikka, obviously, Brian converts his, but Ariel Martinez steps up and Logan takes his chance at redemption with a save.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Logan doesn't, he doesn't really get fooled by any of these different run-ups. And I think that's the biggest thing for a goalkeeper in a penalty situation, is to wait for the goal, for the taker to make a decision. And Ketterer is so patient in this one, and it's at a good height. I think he does have to jump for it, but it's not like ridiculous, like postage stamped or anything. So, the crowd erupted like it was a goal for us when he made that save. And big ups to him that he didn't let the previous two mistakes, affect him too negatively going forward. He's in the same way that the world's best strikers can put away missed opportunities. I feel like he can put away mistakes and just file them in the back of his mind for another day and, see us through.
Logan's redemption was obviously a big thread of this, but Christian, at the end of the day, like, the kind of crazy thing about this was the just ice cold nature of Locomotive's takers. There was, between Nick Ross, Brian Rebillon, Richie Ryan, and Saeed Robinson, it didn't look like there was a nerve in the bunch. They just absolutely, like, they put their penalties away quite comfortably, it seemed.
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, the last two of ours, Richie and Saeed's, kind of scared me. I was watching I was watching from down the goal line.
Yeah,
and I thought Richie's was going to go over because he just launches it and almost like right under the crossbar. So I thought that his was going to go over. Saeed's. It didn't look like a strong kick. So it kind of hopped on the ground. So that one scared me too. But the only thing that matters is that they go in. They looked confident. I guess that's all that matters too, that they look confident that it goes in. But I'd be lying if I told you that, I thought that they were guaranteed, because those last two scared me for a second.
Brian scared me the most because it was right down the middle, like the absolute, like, audacity. The ones down the middle always, those and Panenka's, I'm always like, oh God, like this is gonna go wrong. But in Rebellon fashion, he smashes that home too. So
I think it's worth mentioning their big contribution comes in the shootout. Nick Ross and Saeed Robinson bookending the takers for Locomotive. But it's worth mentioning, just going back a little bit, Nick and Saeed both play extremely well when they came on. And Nick in particular, it seemed, Nick really changed the game when he came on. And I think it's worth mentioning that, because there was kind of a line where as soon as he came on, we just started to gain a little bit more of that control and break with a little bit better, kind of more incisiveness. Nothing against Chapa. I believe he replaced Chapa. But Nick kind of showing why that role is something that Chapa is growing into, and why we would at least refer to it as the Ross role.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The big contribution that I feel like Nick made in this one is just keeping the ball in their attacking half. Anytime it would, spring out or bounce away from someone, he was there. I mean, he's just there to keep the move alive. And it's a simple role, but an effective one, and one that's very important to us. And I'm just so glad he's healthy again, because we need all the bodies available, if we want to make a deep run and hopefully win a trophy. But yeah, Ross, man, he's one of my favorites for sure. And
Christian, I mean, you spoke at the top about this being a home game and obviously the reaction of the crowd. How was, like, from your perspective last night in the stadium, what was that reaction like, in those big moments, the goals, obviously the winning penalty, the save first from Logan, then the winning penalty from Saeed. How was that from your perspective?
I mean, it was fantastic. I have my back to the crowd. I'm keeping my eyes on the field to get some photos and stuff. But you forget in those moments that there's only 1,500 people there. And when you bring that, I hadn't thought about it, but when you bring it up, like, it just kind of makes me really wish that, we weren't in these circumstances. Like it was loud, like you feel like the buzz, and like how much more electric would that be, with 8,000 people there, or whatever, capacity is. Cause I think that at this point, with the season the team had last year and the season that they're having this year, that this is a game that, sells out, or very, very at the least very nearly sells out. And so, it, like I said, you can't tell that we're at such a limited capacity. It doesn't feel like that when you're not looking into the stands.
The last thing I'll say on the crowd is Eighth Notch unveil a tifo prior to the match, Scarface style portrait of Mark Lowry with conductor across the top. What'd you guys think of this nod to our to the boss?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's so clever, and it really looked like Mark. Like you could just glancing at it, exactly who it is. Maybe the nose was a little big, but I mean, it's great. It's Eighth Notch. They are so crucial to the team's success, and Mark acknowledged as much on Twitter this morning or last night when he replied to them with a picture of the tifo. And so, shout out to Eighth Notch, always putting in the work. Those tifos take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of, sweat equity. And so, shout out to Eighth Notch. I love the tifo, probably one of their best ones, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And just as an acknowledgement of Mark's importance in all of this, because obviously we're going to spend most of our time talking, like we'll talk tactics, obviously, but we talk about player contributions on the field. But you can never overlook the impact that Mark has on this side. And I think particularly in this game, the mentality that they have, and that just willingness to always continue to fight and claw. They never do give up. And so I think Eighth Notch just kind of enhances that, and the acknowledgement of that give and take between the team and the crowd itself, and in particular the supporters group is just such a cool thing. And now it's memorialized in this portrait. But now, Locomotive do claim the win 4-2 in the penalty shootout after that 2-2 extra time draw. So across the 120 minutes, guys, and Christian, we can start with you, but a playoff edition of the Shithouse 11, who makes it in from this FC Tulsa squad that we hadn't faced off against yet this season?
Well, I mean, I thought it was going to be harder to remember, so I even told Mikka to take a note when I made my decision. But I made my decision when Paige got his yellow card for smacking the throw in out of Gomez's hand. Because what the fuck even is that? So that decision was made, and then to get sent off too, I think just kind of cements it. Before that, though, I thought that we might have had to induct yet another couple of Locomotive players for some of those early fouls that maybe should have gotten carded, but we were lucky that they didn't, because they were definitely, as Mikka likes to call them, and professional fouls. Because there was no purpose to them other than to try to slow them down, which we've been on the receiving end of plenty of times, but
sure,
to see our guys commit them, and so early too was the other thing. They were pretty early on in the game. It was surprising, but so Paige for me.
Mikka, do you concur?
Oh yes, I concur in the judgment. Chapman Page was, and then Gomez, man, his face was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Because throw-ins are a big way to start counterattacks in modern football. So he denies us. It is shithousery in the finest, because he is denying us an opportunity there and helping his team. So yeah, he's an obvious choice for this one, I think. And yeah, and then he gets sent off to boot. So I mean, I feel like you can't ignore any of that in selecting for the shithouse 11.
I think Callum Chapman Page. Although I will give a shout out, and this is, if you want to see the picture that I'm referring to, you can just go to our Twitter feed and look for the tweet that says "mood" from Mikka. But as Chapman Page made his way out off of the field and down the sideline towards the tunnel, he has a little exchange with Maka King, and the face that Maka makes, this shit-eating grin, is just priceless.
Yeah, go to our Twitter and check it out, because I had to like rewind it like 6 times on my Roku just to get the perfect shot of it. It's amazing. Yeah. Shouts to Maka for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Christian, before we close out the talk on this match, do you have an update on the score predictions from this match?
I guess. I say that because I don't think any of us were prepared for a penalty shootout situation.
Right.
So I guess we have to have a little conference here. So do we say that it's a Locomotive win? Like, is that how we chalk it up? 'Cause
I mean, I think if, since it was a draw in like even extra time, I feel like predicting a win and predicting a penalty win are two different things, but that's just my thought. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah,
I don't think that any of us even like considered like I don't even think it entered our heads. Like, what if it's a
did say
penalty
we
win?
would score from a dead ball situation, but I was not anticipating like this.
Right.
So yeah.
So
I mean, I guess we can call it a win.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really make much difference, I guess, because none of us would have predicted a 2-2 win on penalties. So we either all get a point for predicting a win or all don't get a point for predicting a win.
Yeah, at this point, I think it's just about setting a precedent.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the result is Locomotive advance. So like it is a win. So we can say a point for the result if you predicted a win. But maybe in the future, like it's an additional point if you predict correctly that it's on penalties.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing we're kind of saved from, another thing that we'll have to discuss, is that we got lucky that none of us, the scorers that we picked, none of them actually took PKs. Because I think that would have added another wrench into the system.
Yeah, I don't think those would count.
But yeah, luckily none of us picked anyone that took PKs. Go think, like, how does that even happen? Like, neither Mahrez nor Gomez took penalty kicks.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
That is
but
a
Richie
little odd.
did. Like, what?
Yeah. Well,
I didn't understand.
Richie has experience scoring in, the FA of Ireland Cup for Sligo Rovers. So like this is in the cup final. So
so I guess to make this brief, we'll just say that everyone gets a point for the win. And for some reason I didn't type in Austin's prediction into here for last week, but he did pick a win, and he did not pick Carijo scoring, right?
I don't believe so. I think Gomez, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So then everyone gets a point for the win. So we're all at the same place still, but just to give a recap, that puts me in last place with 13, Phil in third with 15, Mikka in second with 16, and Austin still at 22.
Damn.
Yeah, just running away with it. But all right, well, now that we've closed this match out, we obviously have the small matter of New Mexico United in the Western Conference semifinals to talk about, and a roundup of all the playoff action in USL Championship last night. And we will get to all of that right after a quick break. So stay tuned. Are you tired of the same old uniforms and cookie cutter templates from Nike and Adidas? Are you looking for a unique, completely custom kit for your youth club, Sunday league squad, adult, or even pro team? Icarus FC can help you create the kit of your dreams at an affordable price. Let them help you design your new custom kit today at IcarusFC.com. Welcome back. Well, before we get into the preview of the Derby in the playoffs, we're going to talk results and happenings across USL Championships playoffs, these conference quarterfinals. We'll start out East just because we don't care as much until obviously the final, if and when we reach it. But watching this play out, a couple of big results, obviously. Charleston Battery win pretty late in that Derby matchup against Charlotte Independence, ending Charlotte's season. But Charleston continuing to find a way to win out there. Lou City get a 2-0 win over Pittsburgh, which pretty impressive given that they met at the semifinal stage last season. Tampa Bay beat Birmingham Legion 4-2. This match kind of played out almost a little bit like ours in that it was, well, Tampa Bay took a 2-0 lead, and actually Birmingham clawed it back to 2-2. But after that, Tampa Bay created a bunch of chances, and this almost felt like how Locomotive's match should have gone, in that it was 4-2 in regular time, rather than needing, any sort of penalty shootout. But the story of the Eastern Conference playoffs this year, and the Cinderella tale goes on, if I guess Cinderella was also doomed to die at midnight. But
Oh, shit.
St. Louis FC get a 1-0 win, a stoppage time winner as well over Hartford Athletic. Guys, I spoke about it on Twitter yesterday, but this is a strange one in that you obviously are very happy for St. Louis's fans having this moment, but every kind of like moment that St. Louis has is almost marked by the fact that they are going away. They will not exist next season. How weird is this kind of run? And is St. Louis FC the neutrals team, if you will? Like, would winning the final be like the Cinderella tale? Or is it just this weird, I don't know, I get this like weird doomed vibe from them.
I think they are the obvious neutrals favorite. I mean, they're certainly mine. I want to see them do well. But at the same time, if they win the final, it's almost like an indictment of American soccer in a way, that a team that is so successful, so well supported, could go this far and do so well on the pitch and still fold. Yeah. Because of MLS. Point blank. So yeah, kind of a double-edged sword there. If they continue to be successful in the playoffs, it looks bad, I think, for the sport in America. But obviously I would be thrilled for them, and for their fans, it would be a really great send-off.
Christian,
is it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, this isn't a St. Louis FC podcast, so I might be taking us into stuff that maybe we don't want to spend a lot of time on, but is it because of MLS? Because I got curious once I heard that they weren't going to be around anymore, and the only thing that I've seen is because they're folding due to a COVID-19 impact. I didn't see anything mentioned about MLS, so I'm curious what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, I think they maybe blamed COVID, and it's just, but ultimately it is the ownership group has a minority stake in the MLS franchise, which will be starting up playing in 2 years in St. Louis. And I think they basically, once he had a cut of what was going on at MLS level, like he just did, the cost of operating a USL team just didn't make sense anymore. But I just think, I mean, he may blame like COVID, but ultimately if the MLS team wasn't coming, St. Louis FC would still exist. So, or would, would be existing. The MLS team's, arrival is essentially killing them, for lack of a better term. So yeah, it's a strange situation in that obviously, normally you would see a team do well and then have them be promoted or whatever. So for a city to already have a very established team at a professional level and just get an MLS team placed on top of it's just unfortunate in my opinion.
Got it. I didn't know that there was a St. Louis MLS franchise incoming, so that makes sense then.
Yeah. Yeah, the St. Louis City FC, because keeping it real original around here. But anyways.
My God.
Anyways.
I can't believe they put City and SC in the same club name.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think St. Louis should have gone like full French for their team. Just embraced the Saint Louis, like whatever, and just added a bunch of numbers and letters at the beginning. And that would have been some like long French abbreviation.
The MLS names. I mean, quick aside, like Sporting Kansas City, that makes no sense because sporting means that your club has multiple sports.
Right.
That's what that means in Europe. Real Salt Lake, the Real title needs to be bestowed by the monarchy. You don't just give it to yourself. So anyway.
Presidential Salt Lake.
Just saying. I don't know if anyone would want that title.
Yeah.
Anyway. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So oddly enough, that obviously was kind of the big story out of, and I'm sure St. Louis fans, are over the moon that they kind of live to see another day. I just thought of kind of a weird scenario where obviously Locomotive, when they played Fresno in the playoffs last season, I think they were just finding out at that moment that it would essentially be the last game. Like when they were knocked out of the playoffs, it would be their last game, and Locomotive kind of delivered the indirect death sentence. So there is a possibility, albeit a very small one, of Locomotive killing another team if St. Louis makes it to the final. So
damn,
we could claim two clubs to our, I don't know, Warzone victory, I guess. I don't know.
Two heads on our wall.
Yeah. Very odd thing that I was thinking about. But anyways.
That's a long ways away.
Yeah. More immediately in the West, the West continues. So people across USL, and I don't know if you guys have run into this at all, but people across USL, like social media, whether it be Twitter or Reddit, refer to the West as the simulation because it's just so kind of out there and weird. Well, it lived up to its name last night. Reno claimed kind of a routine 4-1 win over Los Dos. I don't think anyone saw anything but a Reno win coming out of that game, and they were comfortable in doing so. But the stories came out, Locomotive's dramatic win aside, New Mexico United and Phoenix Rising both advance on late goals in extra time from seeming handballs. Solomon Asante, I think the joke that Jeff Reuter made on Twitter was he punched their ticket literally, as he literally, like, I cannot emphasize this enough, punches the ball into the back of the net. And then New Mexico United laid on against San Antonio. Chris Wehan appears to control the ball with his forearm before finishing low to Cardoni's left and sending New Mexico through to face Locomotive. So, guys, the reaction on social media, the incidents themselves, like this was just kind of crazy for it to happen in such quick succession. Like I felt like I don't know. It did feel like the simulation.
It's like both of these clubs were like, everyone hates us. Let's dial it up a little bit. You know, in my opinion, the better team did not win between San Antonio and New Mexico United. So that's unfortunate. Phoenix, I would think they probably do get by Sac Republic either way, but I mean, it's just, you were kind, I think, Phil, to say they were seeming handballs. I think they were head balls. I think that's what the handball rule was originally intended for, is these intentional extensions of your arms to control or touch the ball. And that's what happened in both of these. And I don't know how these referees don't see it. I mean, and you know, there's calls for VAR, and I understand that. That's the knee-jerk reaction. But does that make it better if the referee doesn't see it in the first place? I mean, of course, if there was VAR, the VAR would say, hey, you should take a look at this. But I don't know. I think there's a fundamental, issue with refereeing at this level that would need to be addressed before we implement technology on top of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about too, and maybe Christian, you can chime in on this, but I think we've talked about in the past that as it stands, USL's infrastructure, even if we had VAR, the camera angles and stuff, like we obviously could spot stuff like this, but the implementation of VAR across the whole league would be like very odd. Like a lens flare in an evening game in New Mexico, whenever those happen again. Like imagine an incident happens in midfield and they try to review it on VAR, but they can't because the sun is straight down the lens. Like there's like that's the type of stuff that we're contending with. Like we're talking about having VAR when the leagues that have it and are able to implement it even semi-effectively are literally broadcasting dozens of camera angles. Like, and a USL ground has maybe 5. Like, I don't know it might be 10, I guess, on the high end, but nothing's down the goal line. Nothing's down either end line or, end line really. So I don't know. I just think, I think VAR it's kind of even a moot point aside from these kind of blatant calls where it's like, well, we can see that he handled it, obviously. But Christian, I don't know what you think on this.
I think that obviously every stadium's built a little differently, but I think, and even like you said, even in the European leagues that have infinite resources, seemingly, like VAR is still flawed, but I think it's important to try something. Even a flawed system is better than no system. As when it comes to reviewing, I would say.
Right.
So they'll take your New Mexico example. You have that lens flare that prevents you from seeing something. Then you stick with the call that's on the field and you don't reverse it. But at least you're trying to do something about it. And there will still be people that say, oh, what is the point even? But the point is that you make an effort, I think. And for me, there's, VAR is very controversial, especially with it being used for pretty much everything. But for me, I think what I would like to see is at least kind of like in American football, all scoring plays are reviewed. Mm-hmm. So in this case, both of these actions that we're talking about in the Phoenix game and the New Mexico game, they directly contribute to a goal. So if we were to say, all scoring plays get reviewed, we take, obviously the camera caught both of these. So it's possible to have a camera that can look at these,
right,
that you can go back and look at. So all scoring plays get I just think that's simple.
Yeah.
Especially when we have stupid things like hydration breaks in the middle of October. I would gladly sacrifice, the 8 minutes that we use in the game for that to review 4 goals that happen in a game.
Sure.
So I think there's ways to do it. I think that, and obviously I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but like it seems like they would have, like, it almost seems like they just don't want to, because from a layperson's perspective, it just seems perfectly doable. So I don't understand why they're not doing it.
Yeah, no. And that's a very fair, I think, the reviewing the scoring plays. It just is so bizarre that 2 very kind of high profile incidents happen, not just in a weekend of USL play, but in the playoffs and within about 30 minutes of each other, because the games kicked off about half an hour apart. So it was a very just bizarre night, all things considered. And the question now is, I mean, obviously we talk about officiating balancing out over the course of a season. Is there the chance that New Mexico and Phoenix have set themselves up for big karmic downfalls?
Nothing would be sweeter.
But at the same time, nice guys finish last. We shall see. I hope so. Yeah. I mean, of course I do, considering who we are facing next for the fucking, 10th time this season. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we may as well dive straight in to the Derby del Camino Real 5th edition. It is crazy to have a derby in the playoffs. I mean, we faced Fresno, Sacramento, and Real Monarchs last season, which I think the Real Monarchs playoff game almost produced a rivalry rather than being the product of one. What is it going to be like at Southwest University Park, even with this kind of, with the reduced capacity and everything? What's it going to be like down there with an actual derby match in a game that is already this massive?
It's going to be a mess. I see no other way of this playing out than like just an absolute like mess. The fans obviously have gone back and forth over the season. I mean, we've met them so many times now, as you said, Phil, the 5th edition of this one already. And so, the players know each other well by now, and there's no love lost between these two sides. And didn't Logan he had an interesting quote about this one, didn't he? Toward the end of last night, what did he say about it?
Yeah, I believe the quote was, "We'll see who the better club is," or something along those lines.
So yeah, I mean, they're up for it, obviously. Maybe that's why they let this handball go, because USL Championship really wanted this rivalry in the semifinals to be a thing. But stress. Yeah, so much stress already.
Well, and the interesting thing about last night for New Mexico United, we've talked a lot about them. There's been a ton of talk about the fact they've spent the whole season on the road, and is it going to affect them? And I think we've seen some effects in terms of their sharpness and in terms of just how dangerous they are. But at the end of the day, United last night, they only generate 10 shots. San Antonio generates 17. But from those 10 shots, they put 6 on target. And so New Mexico United just remains the efficiency kings in terms of offensive output, because they just always seem to find a way to create chances. Like, even when they're not creating that many, they seem to be dangerous.
Yeah, I think that that's something that maybe we've struggled with a little bit this season, is that even when we do create chances, they're not great chances. So it'll be interesting to see, how we respond to that. I think honestly the games, I think the outlook on this for me is that I think that things are just going to continue getting harder for New Mexico. And right now I think that and I say that just because they are having to do all the traveling and that kind of stuff. So I think we've had that lack of travel be a huge benefit for us, and it'll just be interesting to see. This is it. This is basically everything that's happened this season, in particular between these two clubs, is all just coming to a head on Saturday, and so just be interesting to see where it leads.
When it's single elimination like this, Mikka, it's obviously stressful for everyone involved. If this Tulsa match is anything to go by, how will Locomotive fans make it to the full-time whistle?
By being sedated with alcohol. I obviously do not have that option because we will be working this game, of course. But yeah, I don't know what else to tell you all. Have the cardiologist on speed dial. Have your will set up. It's going to be crazy. And this is by far, I mean, we said, that there was something on the line in the last Derby because Group C was still up for grabs. But this is another level. I mean, win or go home for real. And both fans are going to, relish it. Whoever comes out on top, it's just going to be banter factory for the next, 6 months or whatever. So this is a pivotal moment in the history of both clubs, really. Two very young clubs that have found success pretty quickly. And have, this has really turned into a really great rivalry, and it's just everything's on the line now. And I hope that our boys respond well to the pressure.
Christian, the head-to-head is the area where New Mexico United fans have kind of held it over the heads of Locomotive fans. This represents kind of the best opportunity to reinforce our playoff record, which is obviously a little bit better than theirs, and also give that head-to-head bragging rights for that length of time. How much does that add to this matchup beyond what's actually transpiring on the field?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to this. You bring up the head-to-head, like, just to even with a win here, like that would put us at like 100% equal. That would put us like at 2-3-2 in like the all-time series. So just to show you how insane that this competition has been between the two teams for over the last two seasons. So it's kind of strange that even with a win, there is still no like obviously there's a winner. We'll have continued our run in the playoffs. As far as head-to-head goes, there would still be no clear-cut winner. So it's insane how intense this matchup is.
Yeah, and I think if there was ever a game that, there was some doubt and some New Mexico fans tried to play this off as not a rivalry, but this match in particular, this edition of the Derby del Camino Real, as we've coined it, I don't think there will be any denying at the end of this one that this is a legitimate rivalry in U.S. soccer now. And in terms of the amount of obviously, chatter between the fan bases, but also the ability in the future to travel to each other's grounds and like make it a kind of habitual thing where, this is played at least twice a year and it is, it's well attended by both sets of away fans. There's just such potential for it to be, I think, one of the spiciest rivalries, pardon the chili pun, but the one of the spiciest rivalries in USL, if not US soccer at large. So, God, I don't think you can really overstate how important this game is for both teams. Season implications aside, I think it's just like you said, Mikka. There's like trajectory of the clubs is kind of going to be based off of this. For
sure. To put it on the record, I think we can beat them. But we have to be on it from the off. Honestly, there's no room for error in this one. I hope that the errors we committed against FC Tulsa are, we've used up our quota now, and it's about, playing a professional game 90 plus minutes if necessary all the way through.
Yeah. I think it goes without saying that we'll have to be sharp. Christian, do you anticipate any changes to the lineup? We actually saw Mark go with the same starting 11 for, I think, the first time in 2 consecutive matches in this restarted season, when he went with the same 11 against Monarchs and then in this playoff match against Tulsa. Do you think he makes any changes ahead of United?
I can't think of a particular reason why. I think that this lineup is really based out of necessity. This is kind of what we referred to earlier in the season, in that I think this is the best 11 players on the squad. Nick Ross being on the bench, probably because he's still not 100% coming back from his injury. And I don't know if that'll change between now and Saturday. But yeah, I can't imagine why anything would change. I don't think that anyone that was on our bench this weekend starting is going to make a huge difference. Maybe I'm missing something tactically, but just overall, as far as quality goes, I think this is the best 11 on the team. Maybe Saeed instead of Chapa is really the only change that I can think of. Maybe just because Mark wants to be a little more physical. But even then, Chaba does a good job of holding his own. I think it's just a matter of preference on the day.
I think if there are any changes, they're going to be enforced. I noticed at the end of the penalty shootout that both Saeed Robinson and Mishak Jerome were kind of holding their hamstrings. Hopefully that was just tiredness at that point, because, it had been over 3 hours of soccer. But yeah, hopefully nothing there's too serious. I wouldn't personally have any immediate changes that I think need to be made. If Nick is match fit 100%, then I think he comes in for Chapa. I think he should come in for Chapa. I think Chapa could probably give us something coming off the bench. But yeah.
Yeah, that was my only thought, change wise, is just it's really dependent on health, and in particular, I think the health of Nick Ross is of kind of very relevant to this, because I do think he adds a lot, and I think he can. I think he could be potentially a big catalyst in any game against any opponent, but particularly against New Mexico. I think his influence in midfield would be awesome to have from the start. But if he can only contribute, 45 or half an hour, he showed last night that he can come off the bench and kind of get straight into it and make an impact. So, if that's the way that he's utilized in this one, then I'll probably be fine with that. Hopefully we're not chasing goals at that point. But speaking of goals, it's that time, guys. Score predictions. Scores and scorers. Christian.
I am just going to be difficult, and I think that I'm going to predict a draw and a penalty kick situation. I think that we are going to end up with a 1-1 draw at the end of regular and extra time, and I think that Locomotive win in penalties. I hope that doesn't happen, because 220-minute games is a lot. But that's just how I feel about this. I feel like that's like the only way that this game could possibly end. So I'll pick for the goal scorer. I think that Gomez gets his I don't know if it's a revenge goal per se, but I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, kind of breaks his mini drought, I guess.
The slump buster.
Yeah. Is it me or Mikka next?
You, Phil.
Okay. So I think that's definitely a good shout. I think I really my big prediction in this one is that Locomotive's defenders really bounce back in terms of locking down United, and I think we saw in the way that we played to a 0-0 stalemate that we can bottle those guys up for 90 minutes. So I'm going to go for the 1-0, just a nervy 1-0. And I don't know. I do think Gomez is due for one at some point, but I think I'll go with Leandro adding to his tally now that he's feeling himself a little bit. But I think we've shown that we can bottle them up for 90 minutes. So we just need the goal. I think that's the X factor. And now that we have a striker who seemingly is, kind of breaking out of that initial kind of awkward phase with us, then we can get that 1-0 win. But I do think it's going to be obviously a tightly contested game, and I think Logan's going to have to be he's going to have a really good game to keep it scoreless. But Mikka, what do you think about this one?
I would love a clean sheet, but I just don't feel that happening. I'm going to go 2-1. I think we take it to extra time and get the winner in extra time. Hopefully no penalty kicks necessary. But yeah, 1-0 might actually kill me, Phil. That's to defend a 1-0 lead is ouch. Yeah. But I would take it if we advance at the end of the day. But yeah, I'm going 2-1, and I believe I'm going to pick Gomez. I'm trying to just will it into existence that he gets off the mark here in the postseason.
Yeah. Gomez, hand of God, winner in extra time.
Oh, God. Please, no. I was going to say the other thing about the match that I think is a positive for us is that New Mexico had to play 120 also.
Right.
I think I would be a lot less optimistic if they would have won in regular time and we had to play those extra 30 minutes, but they're playing the same minutes that we did.
Yeah.
They have to make the trip. So.
Right. Well, and they came into the San Antonio match having not played the weekend before because the RGV match wasn't rescheduled due to Locomotive winning the group outright. So they came into the San Antonio match fully rested. With an additional week of rest, and it didn't show in the sense that they didn't play San Antonio off the field at any point. They weren't super sharp comparatively. So I think fitness wise, they're, going to be around the same level that we normally see them, maybe a few tired legs from 120. And they did definitely start a very, as you'd expect, it's a single elimination game, but all of their big names played significant chunks of that game. So yeah, I mean, they're going to have the same, I would say similar legs to us in that they all contributed, for quite a long time. So, yeah, it's a very good point though. And we'll see how they enter this one. Austin sent in his prediction. What did he go for?
Austin went with a very optimistic 3-1 Locomotive win. Gomez. So, I will take the thrashing in the pick'em for that to be correct.
Let's hope Ostradamus is on another one of his hot streaks, because that would be amazing, nice and comfortable, a little bit of daylight, but. Our experience with United has not proven that comfortable recently, or ever. So that might be a little bit on the optimistic side. But I do love the energy because I really do. Gosh, this is a big one for Locomotive, and I'm going to be stressed out about it for probably the entire week leading up. We'll have obviously all the coverage from the game itself And I did just want to send out a quick disclaimer to anyone planning on attending the match. I assume there may be members of the curse, in attendance. So I would just ask everyone to...
Watch your profanity.
So yeah, just make sure you're on your best behavior at the swap to make sure we don't get internet scolded by that supporters group in particular. Anyway, I had to find a way to work that clip in. I added it to the soundboard, and I think Beautiful. I may just use it if someone curses at any point in the podcast. Just
watch your profanity.
God, it's so good. It's so good. Anyways.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Soundboard shenanigans aside, I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. Massive match next weekend. And you can find all the coverage for that at Seriously Loco on Twitter. You can also follow us on Instagram at Seriously_Loco. And we had some cool pictures from Christian last night at the match. You can kind of get some field level views. And then, if you enjoy the podcast, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Spotify. Follow, subscribe, whatever the parlance of the site is. But you can follow and get the episode as soon as they're released, essentially. You'll get notifications. So, thank you guys for listening. And until next time, stay loco.